So, Shramana, many of the people with whom you are involved on 1 million by 1 million aren't sitting in Silicon Valley. They're sitting in India or Africa or Latin
All
America,
over
or
the world.
all over the world. How are things different there as these ideas apply?
The need for bootstrapping is far more acute because in Silicon Valley, at least, there's a very active, very mature seed capital ecosystem. Most of the world doesn't have a seed capital ecosystem. Forget about a mature seed capital ecosystem. So the
Right.
amount of seed capital available is very low. So your bootstrapping needs, your requirement that you bootstrap your company is much higher and much more urgent. So you better bootstrap. You know, if you're in Kazakhstan, last week we had a couple of students from Kazakhstan with a decent concept. There was, you know, they have some interesting, and they have a professor who's mentoring them, and this professor brought them to 1 million by 1 million last week. I thought it was a fine idea. They obviously need to follow the method of building a business. But is this company ever going to get funded? No, probably not. But who cares?
Yeah, it
They're
doesn't
doing a
matter.
little startup in Kazakhstan. It's okay, you know. This is the kind of stuff that is going to develop economies. It's not these one-off home runs that are going to develop economies. It's these companies en masse that are going to develop economies. That's why we're doing 1 million by 1 million.
So do you find these ideas playing out in both business to business and consumer kinds of markets, or are they more commonly used in one or the other?
Business to business for sure is, you know, we very much like bootstrapping in that context. E-commerce is a market that is seeing immense amount of bootstrapping. It's very easy to bootstrap niche e-commerce businesses, and numerous entrepreneurs are doing that on the B2C side. It's the ad-supported businesses that don't do well in this mode.
Yep.
You know, because for ad-supported businesses to work, you need millions of users. And
But
getting to millions
before
of
you can sell
users,
your first ad, you need millions of users. Yeah, exactly.
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 So getting to millions of users is an expensive process. And that one, you know, whether it's mobile apps that are ad-supported or web apps that are ad-supported, that sector, it's very hard to bootstrap in. So this is a business model that I do not like very much.
Yeah. So we've said it kind of works in both B2B and B2C. What about goods versus services? Do you see more success stories in services, more in goods, or do you see lots of success in both
Both.
of those arenas as well?
We see both. And as I mentioned to you earlier, bootstrapping using services, bootstrapping products using services
It's
is
a
a
great way to
very
go.
effective methodology of bootstrapping.
Yeah, right. Um, so I sit in London and you sit in Silicon Valley, and both of those are places where there's, at least relatively speaking, a reasonably well-developed ecosystem to raise money for
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. And it's awfully tempting, I think, to do so when you kind of think, well, money grows on trees. You know, the guy down the street just raised money, and the guy across the street almost has, and he's going to get it tomorrow. So how do you get people in our kinds of settings to say, well, you know, take another path? How do you do that?
It's very hard, and I think part of these cultures, I think London definitely is that, New York is that, Silicon Valley for sure. These have become finance-driven cultures, and these have become speculation-driven cultures. So a lot of people who are playing in these cultures are not really the true entrepreneurs. They are actually the speculators. You know, when the financial crisis happened in 2008, I wrote a column in Forbes, which was on the cover, on the homepage of Forbes for 1 month. And it was one of my most successful articles. It was one of the most successful articles on Forbes, actually. It was called Capitalism's Fundamental Flaw. The capitalism that I bought into as a 16-year-old when I first encountered Ayn Rand, I grew up in Calcutta, which was a socialist, communist kind of environment. I was thrilled to discover Ayn Rand and this, you know, celebration of capitalism. That type of capitalism that I fell in love with is a celebration of the value creator. But the capitalism that dominates the world today is a capitalism that mainly rewards speculators. And unfortunately, the world that we are seeing today emerge in many of these financially oriented hubs like London, New York, Silicon Valley, in particular those three, and I'm dreadfully irritated to see that Bangalore is going that route as well.
As is Mumbai. I spoke to an angel there this morning. Same thing.
This is becoming this speculation-driven culture instead of building value, building, satisfying customers and being paid for it. Instead, they're looking for exit strategies. There's a difference between business model and exit strategy. Who has told you, and why should you buy into this nonsense that you have to build $1 billion company and dominate the world? Why is that the definition of success? Why is the definition of success not build something useful, take care of your customers, build revenues, build profits, build a sustainable company, take care of your employees, and do something meaningful, maybe have impact? For me, the reason 1 million by 1 million means so much to me is because I believe we're making a huge impact. We touch 250,000 people around the world today already. And that's, the message that we're spreading, the amount of learning that we have been able to propagate at a very large scale is very meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Now, the reason you're being fed this nonsense that you're going to have to build $1 billion business is because VCs want that. The VCs, for their model to work, the stupid portfolio model to work, they need that.
They need it. Yep.
Their success metric is building $1 billion businesses. Why is your success metric $1 billion businesses?
So when people come to you and hear about 1 million by 1 million and decide maybe they should come on board, how does the process work? What do you do?
So 1 million by 1 million is a 100% virtual accelerator. The first way for you to encounter the program is actually coming to our blog and just hanging there and reading some stuff, and you'll get a feel for the tone and the rigor because we don't do foo-foo, stupid stuff. Yeah. You have to use some intellectual horsepower to engage with the program, and that's a requirement. Then the next thing you could do is try out one of our free mentoring roundtables that happen every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time. I just got off finishing our 285th episode of this. And what we do is we very often we have a guest speaker. Today we had Adam Singolda, founder of Taboola. Mm-hmm. Adam has a couple of $100 million in revenue right now. This is a unicorn company, and I've known Adam for a while. So he was our guest, and he shared his wisdom. And then we do mentoring, essentially. We had 3 entrepreneurs today, one from London, one from Hyderabad, and one a Kenyan who now is in San Francisco. So these are the 3 entrepreneurs who had sent in their slides ahead of time, and they pitched, and I basically coached them. And it's in a reality show mode. So the people who are listening in the room are also learning. It's a WebEx call. So it's essentially an acceleration program, but we don't fund companies. We connect companies to funding if they are fundable. Many companies are not fundable. They shouldn't be raising money, but they will be successful as bootstrap businesses. But if you are a company that is fundable and want to raise funding, we will connect you to our network of investors.
I really want to thank you for coming on board with us, for talking about your perspective on these ideas and making it so crystal clear that this really is a viable alternative for the participants that are on our program. So thank you so much for coming. Fantastic to have you. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for having me, John. Take care. Bye.